I grew up in a small town where everything was simple. We didn't need English to live our daily lives. We spoke our local language for everything. Buying food, talking to neighbors, or making jokes. For me, English was just a school subject. I didn't like it, and I didn't think it was important. In school, English was my worst subject. When my teacher asked me to read or speak in English, I felt nervous. My hands would shake, and my words would come out wrong. Once, my classmates laughed at me when I mispronounced a word. I felt so embarrassed that I decided I would never speak English again. I thought, why should I learn this language? It's not part of my life. So I ignored English. I only studied enough to pass exams. I never cared about getting better. I believed English wasn't important for me. One summer afternoon, everything changed. I had an argument with my younger brother because he teased me about my English. Feeling angry and upset, I went to the park to be alone. I sat under a big tree watching people walk by. Then, I noticed a group of young people sitting on the grass, laughing and talking. At first, I didn't pay attention, but then I realized they were speaking in English. Their voices sounded so clear, happy, and confident. They were talking about movies, books, and their dreams. I didn't understand everything they said, but the way they spoke caught my attention. English didn't sound like the boring subject I hated in school. It sounded alive, like music. One girl in the group said something I'll never forget. Learning this language has opened so many doors for me. I feel like I can go anywhere now. Another person replied, "It's not just about speaking. It's about connecting with people." I sat there quietly, listening. Their words made me think. I had always seen English as something that made me feel small and embarrassed, but to them, English was a way to connect with the world. I realized I had been wrong. Maybe English wasn't just for school. Maybe it could be something bigger, something that could change my life. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the group at the park. I decided I wanted to learn English, not just to pass exams, but to really understand it and speak it. I didn't know where to start, but I told myself I would try. The next morning, I found an old English dictionary at home. I opened it and picked 5 new words: bridge, hope, connect, dream, and learn. I wrote them in a notebook and tried to remember their meanings. It was hard at first. The words felt strange, like they didn't belong to me. But I told myself to keep going. Learning English was not easy. I started with small steps. I listened to English songs that my cousin had shared with me. At first, I didn't understand the words, but I loved the way the music made me feel. I looked up the lyrics online and wrote down the words I didn't know. Slowly, I started to understand what the songs were about. Then, I tried watching English movies with subtitles. It was very difficult in the beginning. The actors spoke so fast, and I could only catch a few words. I paused the movie every few seconds to read the subtitles and understand the meaning. It was frustrating, but I didn't give up. I kept watching, and little by little, it got easier. There was one movie that inspired me the most. It was about a girl from a small town who wanted to be a writer. Everyone told her she couldn't do it, but she didn't give up. In the movie, someone said to her, "Your voice matters, even if the world doesn't hear it yet." Those words stayed with me. I wrote them down in my notebook to remind myself to keep trying. I also started practicing speaking English. At first, I practiced alone in front of a mirror. I would say simple sentences like, "Hello, how are you?" and "I am fine, thank you." It felt strange to hear my own voice in English, but I kept practicing. I wanted to be ready to speak when the time came. One day, I went to a small cafe in my town where tourists often came. I sat in a corner and listened to them speak in English. I watched how they talked, how their voices moved up and down, and how they used their hands when they spoke. It was like being in a free English class. I wrote down the words I heard and tried to use them later in my own sentences. The first time I spoke English to someone was scary. A tourist at the cafe asked me for directions. My heart started beating fast, and I almost didn't say anything. But then I remembered the group in the park. They had talked about how English was a way to connect with people. I took a deep breath and said, "Go straight, then turn left. The post office is there." The tourist smiled and said, "Thank you." It was a short conversation, but it made me feel so proud. For the first time, I felt like I could do it. I could speak English. After that day, I practiced more and more. I joined an online group where people from different countries practiced speaking English together. At first, I was very shy. I worried about making mistakes or saying the wrong thing. But the people in the group were kind. They told me, "It's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn." One person in the group, a girl from Spain, sent me a message after we talked. She said, "You are so brave to try this. I can see how much you want to learn." Her words made me so happy. For the first time, I didn't feel like someone who was bad at English. I felt like someone who was learning and growing. A year later, I went back to the park where I had first heard the group speaking English. This time, I wasn't afraid. I saw a new group of people sitting on the grass, talking in English. Smiling, I walked up to them and said, "Hi, do you mind if I join you?" They welcomed me, and we started talking. We shared stories about books, movies, and our dreams. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. Looking back, I realized learning English wasn't just about learning a language. It was about believing in myself. It was about opening my heart to new possibilities and connecting with people in a way I never thought I could. If you're reading this and feel like learning English, or anything new, is too hard, I want you to know it's okay to feel scared. It's okay to make mistakes. What matters is that you keep trying. Even small steps can take you far. And maybe one day, like me, you'll look back and see how much you've grown. You'll realize the world is bigger and more beautiful than you ever imagined. And you'll know that you have a place in it too. This is my story, but it could be yours too. Don't give up. Keep going. You're closer to your dreams than you think.